Hey everyone, it's time. HereBeGains here with a review of the July balance patch. I believe this is the first balance patch for the Waking Plague set. So we're going to go through each card, read through the description of what changed, and give our thoughts on it. So first up is our buffs. First card we have is a Daredevil. Health was increased from 1 to 2. And description says the purpose of this card was to support some of the other Tempt Fate Matters cards in this release, but we undershot the mark. We said to ourselves that if a 4/4 Tempt Fate guy for 4 mana can be reasonably constructed staple, then certainly a 1 mana one that does the same thing would be that much more powerful. Turns out that 1 toughness is just a deal breaker with the number of pings and global 1 damage AoEs available to players, so we're giving it 2 health to survive a little longer and see if it can performance roll. So it goes from a 1/1 to a 1/2. That's fair. A lot of ways to remove a 1/1 from the game. Even a 1/2 isn't very survivable, but gives it a little bit more survivability. Next up is our Reader of Bones. Looks like another Tempt Fate card. So change the ability to give +2/+2. So mana cost stays the same, still a 3/4, but it ramps at +2/+2. And it looks like the ramp condition is also Tempt Fate. So it says here, as a payoff for Tempt Fate, we felt that the normal stat line with strong ability tied to a very specific activation would prove to be pretty solid. But it turns out that by the time you can start chaining your Tempt Fate creatures, the bonus is just not enough. Players generally need 2 to 3 activations to make this not just get hammered off the board and to be worth the investment. At +2/+2, the payoff is much greater and far more worth the risk of including a Tempt Fate package in your deck. So another Tempt Fate card got a boost. Looks like this will be a pretty strong card, be able to ramp up pretty well. Next up, the Absolution Seeking Monk. The change to this is the Tempt Fate is now static and not part of the order resolution. So here you can see when the order reaches 0, it would gain Tempt Fate, but now it's just going to be static. It'll always have it. The reasoning for this, it says we are changing this for 2 reasons. First off, there are ways to increase the Tempt Fate to an odd number, which will cause a decision to be made on your opponent's turn. GU has a play and pause game structure where only the active player needs to make decisions on their turn, and this breaks that standard, so we had to do away with it. So essentially, if the order would be increased to an odd number like 9 or 11, it would cause the effect to trigger on your opponent's turn, which would kind of break the way the game's been all along, so card just needed to be changed. So that's the reason for that change. And then it also says having Tempt Fate as a static means it will now trigger Tempt Fate Matters cards. It looks like the 2 we looked at before, the Daredevil and Reader of Bones. It's going to help those as well. I feel like it opens up some ground for this guy that was not there before, and there was room for it to grow even with its somewhat unheard of stats. So sort of a card, I guess, that was printed and a little broken, so they had to adjust it. Not a huge change though, but still another buff to Tempt Fate. Let's look up Aria, the Unwitting hero. So the change, this one, it was changed to a 3/5 from a 1/5 to a 3/5. Aria was meant to be Light's Haliora, a fellowship-based legend with a suite of complementary abilities that play into each other. She could fit in a lot of shells, including Favor, Arena, and a run-of-the-mill zoo list. We had playtested her at 3 mana, and frankly, there was no reasonable set of stats we could give her at that mana cost for her not to be abused with Arena past the point of fairness. She was absurdly good at 3, which is why we eventually made her 4 mana. We felt that power level was good, but at 4 mana, it was just not nearly as snowbally as turn 1 Arena, turn 2 Lowborn Knight, turn 3 Arena, and so on. Her ability set is what makes her and are pretty tied to make... Did not read correct. Her ability set is what makes her and are pretty tied to each other. so we decided instead to give her a bigger spear to make her more of a threat than a support piece. So it goes from a 1/5 to a 3/5. Pretty strong with your god power. I could see this fitting in arena pretty well. And it would keep getting protected as a 3/5, so it's gonna definitely get stronger as a legendary. Next up will be Malicious Mangrove. Here the health has been changed to 5. Nature has a ton of options at the 4 mana slot, and this just was not compelling enough to make the cut for most. We don't expect that this is suddenly going to have run of the meta, but we think a small boost will help it stick out for other options in sealed and limited formats. Again, another Tempt Fate card that got a buff. It goes up to a 2/5, and it can get the regen when you play other Tempt Fate cards. So as a 2/5, that can be pretty nice as a removal card to keep on the board. So Tempt Fate got a lot of nice buffs so far. We'll look at the Biomass Reconditioner. The ability now triggers at 8 cards in the void, down from 10. So it says Biomass Reconditioner is meant to be a role player card. Everboard did not have meaningful ways to interact with the void, and access to void interaction is critical for decks that need it. It has traditionally been cheap and neutral. We didn't want to make it quite as free as Gleamweaver, and we didn't want it to contradict some of the deck removal cards that define Everborn. Everborn has cards that care about how many cards are in the void, which is why it transforms, it does not remove. In that regard, we see this card as a design win. The issue was more so with that the ability simply did not come online when it was needed in a lot of cases, defeating the purpose of the card. By the time your opponent had reached the 10 card threshold, it's very likely they could have already utilized what they needed in the discard via some form of reanimation. We want the card to be live at 4 mana, and if you are playing moles and Xylarias, it usually will be, but 10 is just a bit out of reach in some cases. So I would say, yes, this buff was needed. I play Everborns quite a bit, and I think even maybe better than 8. I mean, I would have even liked to see like 7 or 6. The only reason being the times you need it. You know, often you don't run it in Everborn deck, but you might evolve it from evolve upward if you need it in a certain condition, if you're going against certain decks that reanimate from the void. But like thinking about decks that use the Exhume God power, sometimes they don't even reach 8 card in the void. And I see what it's saying here. If you can use moles and Xylarias, you can kind of help reach that threshold. But yeah, it seems like certain death decks certainly come to mind that reanimate from the void. It's pretty hard to hit that, so I would even like to see it maybe a little less at 8. But it is an improvement for sure. I know that a couple of times I've tried to play this, I just haven't been able to meet the threshold, so maybe that will help. Okay, next up is Cognitive Dissonance. I really like the name of this card. So it says Cognitive was always meant to be a mass removal spell for Fellowship builds. You would have a board filled with mishmash of tribes, and your opponent could be fully tribal, making this a 5 mana one-sided board wipe. That is insanely powerful in the right situations. The issue is that people did not want to play it when it shuffled your own cards, as the variance around including it was simply too high. That makes sense. We changed it now to only target 2 creatures and shuffle them if they share a tribe. Interesting. That's also different from the current card text, which puts them on the bottom of the controller's deck. Shuffling is different. You know, instead of completely removing the cards from the game, like say you're going against an Anubian, you could put the Priestess on the bottom of the deck. Now they're shuffled into the deck, so it's a little less effective, I would say. It is still multi-target removal spell for 5 mana, which is very strong, but we removed a lot of the variance. It's no longer a full blowout against fully tribalists, but the user has agency as to what targets need to be removed without risking their own. unless that is a technical decision they want to make. While the top level power of the card has been lowered, the floor is much higher and the user has more agency over it, so we think it helps remove the variance that made players not want to use it. I'm a little surprised this change is listed in the buffs, because I don't consider it a full buff. Some players might consider it a nerf. I mean, definitely the shuffle change is a bit of a nerf. Almost like maybe there should have been a second category here between buffs and nerfs. Just like because it got a little bit of both, I guess. Understand they're reducing the variance, so it maybe makes it a little more playable in a lot of decks. But definitely going down to just 2 creatures and having the shuffle can be seen as a nerf in some ways. But let's move on. Next up is the Homelorn Scalemate. Strength up from 5 to 6. Omi is a trained Draka Knight in full armor, weapons ready. 5 power just seemed like we were underselling his strength. As a Fellowship role player, we don't expect you to suddenly drop this into your heel. Light deck and run away with the game. The card has its place, but it's just a bigger threat. Felt pretty good for a Zeus stylist. Again, another Tempt Fate card that got a buff. And also has a keyword that increases Tempt Fate. Seems like Tempt Fate, and a couple of these I think fell into the light domain, so maybe there's a light Tempt Fate deck out there that someone can pull together that might work really well. Next up is the Undercover Insurgent. So this one had its strength increased from 3 to 4. When this card was used, it was mostly used for its free card from the Void ability combined with a self-mill ability. That alone is pretty good, but we want to incentivize players to actually cast this. 4 strength means it is better at removing some of the threats its ability is there for, like hidden 4 health werewolves. Not a huge change, but at least enough of a threatening one that we think it will help it make its way into a larger cross-section of deception builds that want it for its combat disruption. Yeah, so the strength going up to 4, that makes sense. I mean, if your opponent's creatures are going to attack this, you would want to be able to remove a few more, creatures with armor, things like that. Maybe it'll help remove it. The Formless Leech, this got a pretty big buff. Stats increased to 5/6. It was a 4/4. And there's quite a bit of text on this one. Designer note on this: until very late in playtest, this thing's ally ability triggered a mill effect. That's interesting. Interesting because Everborns already have kind of a big mill already. So I'm surprised it was in testing. Was another mill card. I could see how that could probably be too broken. Instead of a draining one, so the playtesters would generally hold it until mid to late game and then have a big turn where they decked out their opponent and put enough life gain back on the board to stabilize themselves for the win. It was not inherently overpowered by the point of the game where you could do this. It felt like a reasonable way to win, but the testers just absolutely hated it. I could see why. It felt like a cheap come from behind victory, and unlike Mole Infiltrator and the like, it didn't come online early enough to empower cards that cared about how many cards were in the discard. So very late in the testing cycle, we scrapped that and changed it to health drains, which is also a very death flavored ability. In many ways, it felt like an Everborn Deathwish Thanatar, which is also 4/4, so we felt that was the right place to be. Didn't create any issues in the testing, and in testing time we had left, and it did not feel toxic anymore, so we left it as is. Turns out not feeling toxic can also mean that a card is vastly underpowered. Big legendary Massive Horror should at least feel more threatening than a 4/4. And play results have proven that out, as the card does not have the win rate that a legendary you have to work for should. So we are upping it to a 5/6, similar to Death's favorite Rhino. We think that level of power boost plus some of the future cards we have planned for the Everborn will trigger to build ally ability, put it in a good spot. So that's cool. They're kind of teasing some future Everborn cards, which is nice. Future cards they have planned for Everborn. I thought this card was, I mean, actually this has made its way into my Death Everborn deck and I've been using it. I thought it was okay, but yeah, I could see 4/4. There's a lot of cards that can remove a 4. There's a few cards that do -4 health now. So it definitely could get removed a lot. And then also, I mean, the mana cost reduces. So, you know, if you get under 4 mana, there's a lot of things that can remove you there, especially from death. So interesting buff for that one. It's a 5/6. I mean, it's a little more livable, and actually do some increased leech, which is nice. Yeah, I like this in my deck as a way of healing up. I didn't really have much heal in the Everborn list. I didn't really run consume much, but interesting that it was initially a mill. That's like, I mean, what is the 7 mana Everborn? If we pull that up here. Yeah, the all-consuming is another mill card, so I'm surprised they were actually playtesting this as another, and especially in Death, because Death seemed to me to be the strongest performing, but they did make the switch before they launched, which is good. Can you imagine having another mill card? That would be a monster. Anyways, let's keep going here. The unique Tactician. Change stats from a 3/3 for 3 to a 2 mana 3/2, so mana cost goes down by 1 and it loses 1 health. I'm somewhat surprised that this card never caught on because it is an absolute house against some strategies that make a lot of the same things. Zombies, Vespids, Sporos, and school teachers get substantially hosed by this ability, but it seemed to be too niche to see play against the field. Yeah, I guess I could see the -1/-1 would play well, especially into like Sporos, and I guess it disrupts school teachers combo. Although, I mean, after 1 turn, it no longer has hidden, so 3/2 is pretty susceptible to, you know, getting removed. I guess it would maybe delay school teachers a little bit if they had some removal in their hand. And then, you know, same when you're going against zombies. I mean, they're gonna have like blight bombs and things like that. But I could see how this would work well into Vespids. But again, really all of those decks you go into, they have ways of removing. If the card was like hidden permanently instead of hidden for 1 turn, then maybe it would get a little more play, but I guess it's another way to try to counter some of those decks. I mean, instead of running, I think there's like 2 or 3 different cards. There's the Bug Slayer is one. Yeah, there's another revival card that does 1 damage and sleeps creatures. I think it was a revival card. Yeah, the Drungular Journeyman, another card that kind of could deal with those types of decks. But yeah, it's a little buff to a, is it a revival card? No, it was a revival. Oh yeah, this was a plague. Okay, and then we'll keep reading here. Domain Defender is next. This is a... What is this? Interesting. I haven't seen this 3/3 destroy a creature with mana cost 7 or more. So it says remember this card. No, you probably don't, even though you likely have 1 languishing in your collection. This card has never seen real play, and its stat line alone should tell you why it's not strong enough. It was always meant to get a power boost since maybe a month after it was released, but it kept falling out of visibility point where we never got around to it. So this is changing from a 3/3 to a 6/6 with Frontline, which for 7 mana makes more sense. Plus it does a destroy, kind of like the Dragon Hunter, right? I think it's another card like this. The Great Dragon Hunter. Kind of like that, but more expensive, so it gets bigger stats, which is fair, I think. With a 6/6 body and Frontline, this card serves specialized use, but it's not embarrassing to include it in your deck when you don't have a target. Okay, and next up is the Bauble Trader. This is a revival card. Interesting to see balance happening on revival cards. I didn't even, I guess, realize that was a thing, but yeah, they can balance the revival cards. I always thought the artwork on this, the face looked very realistic. They printed a few cards like this, like Charity. I felt like also had like a really realistic face. Anyways, the Bauble Trader. This merchant was having a tough time selling his goods. When we made him, we felt like a 3/4 was probably too much for 3 mana coupled with 2 relevant and complementary abilities. But it turns out giving you a free card is not all that it cracked up to be when your stats cannot compete with the meta. As one of the Emporium cards with the worst adoption and win rate, we felt that the stats just did not lie, so we are giving him a small buff. Even if he just winds up being a value engine for decks that discard the Bauble later, we think that that is better than simply not being played. So it got an increase of 3 to the strength from 2 to 3, so a small buff on that. It must have just shown up in the stats as one of the worst performing, it says, Emporium cards. So alright, we're on to the nerfs now. And you know, when it comes to balancing games, it's not an easy thing. So I try not to hate on the team too much when they have to do nerfs. I understand it's part of the game, and it is what it is. You know, you got to try to keep things in balance, and it's sort of like herding sheep. You know, I mean, it's herding cats, I guess you could say instead. It's a hard thing to balance, you know, to keep things in balance. So they do their best, and you know, sometimes we need nerfs. Inkstained Fingers, this is a card I was chasing to get a diamond version of, and I did get one diamond version, but I didn't chase too hard. I didn't go out and purchase a bunch because I felt like a nerf was probably coming, and it did get nerfed. Pretty strong nerf to it. It definitely changes the card. It's changed to have 2 durability and spend the durability whenever it activates. So now it'll be an 0/2, and there's a fair amount of text with this. We could read through it. Another designer note on Figures: this card was actively bad through most of playtesting. Its original version was exactly the same as it is now, except the 6 gem threshold for mana loss was not there. You locked a mana crystal every turn. You would almost never play this earlier than turn 4, and even then it drastically limited what you could do. Testers were trying to find a deck where you would ever play this, and they could not locate one. Interesting. So we changed it to only cause you mana loss at 6, thinking that would be enough of a downside that players would really have to weigh using this over some of the other relics that Death has. Turns out that was not enough, and the win rate of this card shows that. So how do we change it while preserving the overall idea of the card? We played with a lot of ideas, increasing its mana to 3, lowering the drain to 1. None felt very compelling. The issue with the card tended to be its infinite nature. While this card can make very aggressive strategies very fast indeed, it did not make them so fast that it would end the game before this got 4 or so activations. We had to put a countdown on it. The change here is that while we are upping its durability to 2, it is using them for payment. The card will at most get 2 activations, which means across 3 turns. This is the one you cast it, and then 2 subsequent ones. You will get +1 card and drain 4. Okay, this felt comparable to some of the Dread cards with a little less variance, but a much lower ceiling. It is still vulnerable to relic removal, and even a 1-point removal creature means you will only get a single drain and your card back. Again, similar to Dread. Change may very well prove to be too little or substantially too much, and should that be the case, it is the #1 card on our watch list to revisit and make a more fundamental adjustment, but we'd like to see how it plays out and how the players adjust to it. I guess I would say with the Inkstained Fingers, the 2 decks I've seen it in are, you know, the Dread Death. I like to play that a fair bit, and then I guess Anubians was also running this a bit. And I think the Anubian win rate was just maybe getting out of control with it. But I mean, in terms of the Dread Death, it might still have a spot in that deck for me, even with the nerf. You know, it's still, like it says, I mean, it's an 0/2, you're going to get 4 drain, right? Still 2 health twice, so it's like sort of like having 2 extra dread, I guess. Plus you're drawing cards, which, I mean, that's super strong to have. So I mean, for 2 mana, that's still not bad value. I think that still fits in the Dread Death deck for sure. The Nubians, I don't know. I mean, it gives some draw, which is nice. It gives you a little steal. That kind of fits in the Nubians as well. I think maybe it'll fit in the Nubian deck as well still. So despite the nerf, it probably will still remain in at least one of the 2 decks, if not both, that were running this. But yeah, definitely a big change to the card. Understand why they did it, and we'll see how it performs going forward. Next up is Pallas, and Pallas got a pretty strong nerf. Let's see if we can find the card here. The Pallas Beyond Years, Wise Beyond Years. So the change here is pretty substantial. Remove Protected, Roar, and lower to a 3/5. Only reduces Vow to 1 mana now. So yeah, that's a big whack. So it's losing its Protected. It's losing its Roar ability, where it generates the Vow. Its Strength got lowered. And looks like the Vow, instead of 0 mana, will now be 1 mana. So pretty big nerf. Pallas asks you a single question when it is played. Can you remove this before your next turn when the Magic player goes nuts? That was a design choice. We wanted the chosen champion of Magic, one of the strongest wizards in the game, to be a big threat. We thought 6 mana was a reasonable enough turn where mid-range control players can start asking the question of, can you deal with this? We went too far. It's good that they admit it. Protected made it too hard to remove with fair options like creatures and weapons. The war gives you too much flexibility and padding on the turn you play it, and the 5 power meant that crashing into it would cost you the board in most cases. Again, we fundamentally are okay with a 6 mana legend being a must answer threat, and this one generally needs to bring some friends with them to achieve that. But it was asking too much of the opponent to not have to suffer the wrath of Pallas. We took it down in a few ways. I think most fundamentally, it does not give you value the turn you play it, making it much more of a weapon of opportunity than a thing you're always going to slam if you have the mana. We still expect Pallas to be very good and mostly in the same way they were before, but a little more in line with what answers players can pack. So it's a pretty big nerf. I don't know if it was over nerfed. Kind of looking at it again, trying to understand what it'll be like. So in the future, it'll be a 6 mana 3/5. I mean, it still has the spell boost and heal boost on it. It's going to be generating. It'll have ward as well. It'll be generating the Vow of Champions for each fellowship. Is fellowship once per turn? I think it's just once per turn, right? Yeah. So yeah, you get 1 Vow of Champions per turn if you can keep it out. So pretty big nerf. I don't think it was hit too hard. I mean, it certainly was hit hard, but it might be balanced now where it is. I don't know how it would need to be buffed in the future. I mean, it's pretty strong. And then I think increasing the mana cost to 1 is fair. I mean, that Vow of Champions is a really versatile card, especially with the spell boost, heal boost. So yeah, I think it's a good nerf there. Purifying Flames. Reduce the heals by 1. This card, as it turns out, has a very high inclusion and win rate. That's surprising. That is kind of to be expected with any solid removal cards, but this one is a bit past the point we're comfortable with. If it was just 3 mana for 5 damage to your creature, it would probably still be pretty usable, but that is a boring basic card that should be in core, not worthy of a Torrent of Flame from Magic's Champion. We are taking the heal down to 1. We have found that the heals at 2 help to keep Magic in the game and undo the damage the targeted creature has done most of the time. We want to keep the healing because of its synergy with Pallas and the theme of the card. We know this is a somewhat minor change. We are also keeping an eye on this card for a possible second change, likely a lowering of its damage, but again, we want to see how this change plays out in the community first. So if I had to guess, there's some kind of combo with this card, and I don't know what it is. But seems like such a minor nerf, really, that the heal goes down by 1. But there must have been some kind of combo with Pallas that was happening, that was just causing a lot of heal to come through. Maybe some kind of combo where you duplicate the spell. I'm not sure. But interesting nerf. That seemed like a small one, but it sounded like it's on the radar to nerf again. So next up is the Draka Miner. This card's just getting too much play early. I mean, you're seeing it way too much in war, aggro war. It seems to be like the first card played every time you face an aggro war, quite often. So it seems to be a high value mulligan card. Anyways, they reduced the health of this by 1, so it's now a 2/2. Draka Miner is a really innocuous card. 2 mana, 2/3 is not the type of card you associate with being too good, especially when you look at all the options War has available to it in the 2 mana creature slot. The numbers in this case tell quite the story, and Draka Miner's inclusion and win rates are simply too high. It was also target number 1 on too many format ban lists, and we don't like seeing that in core card. He simply fits too easily in too many decks, and the weapon is all but guaranteed to be useful. Gifting the weapon is what he does, so we could not take that away, but 2/2 for 2 means he will likely trade, often unfavorably, instead of cascading value for the war player. We think making him far less sticky is enough for now to bring his win rate down to acceptable levels and not be as much of an auto-include. I kind of felt like the value with the Draka Miner was the obviously the enchanted weapon delve, and often they'll pull out like a 2/3 blitz or something like that, which is really good value early. And I think he fits in a lot of decks. Like I think even, I don't know if they run in Relic as well, but maybe the 1 health reduction will help bring it down a little bit. I don't know. I guess it does combo with other cards. You can increase its health by 1, and the aggro decks that run it, they also have that card. So yeah, maybe that'll help. And then that's it for the nerfs, and then just a couple small updates here. The key. See if we can find the key here. Clarified the wording so it is clear that it is when your god attacks with the relic, not just when you attack with something. I assume that was the case. I was going to do some playtesting with it, just because it says after you attack, but just assumed it meant with this relic. But yeah, that's the case. You need to attack with the relic and not just with one of your creatures. And then we find hope in each other. This one was changed, clarified the wording so it is apparent that when you delve, what you can delve, so players do not think it is any card that can appear in the sanctum, but rather what is there. That makes sense. You can't just delve through the whole sanctum, just what's available in the sanctum. And I did try to play this in a format without sanctum, and does not work, so don't bother including it if there is no sanctum. Won't work. So it will only let you delve what cards are visible in the sanctum. Okay, that's it for the balance patch. You can go through it again really quick, just go down the list. You know, a lot of Tempt Fate, buffs. It seems to be, looks like a light Tempt Fate deck maybe is coming online. Everborn's got a couple light buffs. Cognitive Dissonance got this weird sort of buff nerf, sort of mixed, I would say. But overall, I would say light Tempt Fate got buffs here. And then, you know, when it comes to nerfs, the Inkstained Fingers, I think, will still be relevant in the 2 decks that we're running it. We'll see how it tests. And then the Pallas got hit pretty hard, but it might still get played. I mean, I can see it still getting some play, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that one. And then, you know, some minor buffs here on the Draka Miner, and then it seems like the Purifying Flames, maybe there's some kind of combo out there that's doing some weird things, so that might get a future nerf, it seems like, from the notes here. But anyways, that's it. That was 35 minutes of talking through the patch. Good luck out there playing, and don't forget, I'm also streaming Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern on Twitch. So tune in there. You can watch me play. I do different things. Look at the weekend meta, do some Emporium things, try out the weekly formats. We're often trying out new decks, and sometimes we're doing mythic climbs depending on the day. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.